of the run.
All righty then. Welcome back, everybody, to Leaf Talk. I'm Candid Frank. He's Aaron William Freeland, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And Aaron's going to run through it a little, one thing at a time. And I guess what we like to call the first period. We'll begin with the first period, and the first period includes, as soon as it comes up, I got a computer issue now. Look at that. It won't come up.
That's marvelous, sir.
It's been that kind of day.
Not a problem.
Nylander nets 3 points to lead the Leafs to a 4-2 victory.
Yeah, he got his 18th goal of the season, added 2 assists. Matthias Michelli, Troy Stutcher, and Bobby McMahon into an empty net also scored. Toronto's got 26, 21, and 9. They've won back-to-back games to open a 3-game Western Canada road trip. They are now within 7 points of the Boston Bruins, who occupy the second wildcard berth in the Eastern Conference. Zane Parekh, this is his first NHL game since November 7th. He was working his way back from an injury picked up at the World Junior Championship tournament, in which he starred for Canada with 13 points in 7 games. He was held completely off the scoreboard. So the Flames now got off to a fast start, but Nylander got sprung for a breakaway 35 seconds in, and after that it was a tough period and a bit. Calgary's 2 goals came 2.5 minutes apart in the second period to cut Toronto's lead to 3-2. But after that, the Leafs were holding on for dear life. But at the end of the day, they've now extended their winning streak against Calgary to 8 consecutive games, which is their longest active streak against any team. They're playing the Oilers in another 2.5 hours tonight. It's an 8:30 start, which is a little odd. And
isn't that like 6:30 their time? Yeah,
6:30 their time, which is a little off. But obviously that's going to make Western fans happy. I can't wait to read all about it on the Twitter. But that's the first half of a back-to-back for the Oilers. They're going to be playing the Flames on Wednesday, so that'll be interesting.
Totally interesting. Okay, Rielly is not in the lineup and won't be until after the Olympic break.
Yeah, he apparently suffered an upper body injury Saturday in Vancouver. This is going to keep him out of last night's game, and it's going to keep him out of tonight's game, which gets him a bit of an early start on the Olympic break. Now, there's another part to this as well. This is a chance for a cognitive reset for Rielly as well. There's been a lot of public criticism for his play on defense, not so much for his play on offense, but definitely for his play on defense. It's a good opportunity for him to get rest, get healthy, get fresh, spend a little more time with the kid. Rielly said, Berube said that during the Vancouver game, Rielly briefly trusted it to try to come back in the tunnel, but said he couldn't go. It's better that he don't endanger himself and the rest of his career by trying to force himself back, especially with 1 game left before the Olympics. So
I hear a rumor that the Leafs are changing the report from lower body, upper body to another body injury.
Well, that's entirely possible. And now this, of course,
from another body injury.
This, of course, puts the Leafs defense back into flux again. The one part of this that I can also mention is that Brandon Carlo has told the Hockey News that he doesn't want to leave the Leafs. He says he definitely wants to stay here. He feels like he's found a place where he can fit in. This is interesting, especially based on the fact that the player that was traded for him, Fraser Minten, is now tearing things up with Boston. It's one of those situations where you have to make do with what you've got. And it was mentioned by some commenters that when they traded for Brandon Carlo, they just got the player. They didn't go with the attitude that came with the Spoke B. as evidenced by his lack of willingness to engage with certain people in shenanigans after the whistle, especially when it comes to our goalies.
I don't think he was ever that kind of player. Personally, I don't think he was ever that kind of player. And this is, I'm starting to get a scent of the Muskoka 5 situation. If you may or may not remember the Muskoka 5, that was Sundin and company, McCabe. They were all guys that had cottages up there in Muskoka, and so they called them the Muskoka 5. And what they were known for was their lack of willingness to say, yeah, trade me, and Sundin at the top of the list. I don't know, Aaron, it's starting to sound like that. And I'm not suggesting anything other than there's a reaction now to the unhappiness of the fans, and the players understand and know what the next step is. When a team isn't playing that well, and when they're playing to a point where they're not looking like they're going to make the playoffs, there's always the conversation of rebuild. These guys aren't children. They know how the league works. You know, even if you only know, for example, 10 years, the last 10 years, the Leaf teams made the playoffs every year. So none of the people who've played for the Leafs in the past 10 years knows what it's like not to make the playoffs. So in essence, they're feeling this new kind of pressure. And I think starting with Matthews, who made his declaration that he wants to be a Maple Leaf, which I applaud, but at the end of the day, his play is going to determine where he plays, not what he wants. And the Leafs, the organization, and this is just an opinion by me, Rielly, Nylander, anybody on this team who thinks that just because they want to be on this team, they should be on this team. If any of the management buys into that, then this team's going to devolve into a worse and worse team. Because at the end of the day, what this all comes out, sorry about end of the day, what has to happen here is that someone who has the moxie, the intelligence to say, all right, what does it take to change the way things are going here in Toronto? What does it take? Sometimes drastic change is the only answer. Now, a lot of people, Aaron, and you've probably heard it, because I know I've heard it multiple times from different people. A lot of, intelligent people, if you assume people on television are intelligent, are suggesting the Leafs should follow the pattern of the Bruins. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, at this point, the Leafs need to do something. Whether that's
because the Bruins didn't get rid of their best players. So, I've said get rid of their best players. They didn't do that, and they found a way to make it work.
No, that is true. But at the same time, I think this is something that needs to be torn down to the studs. There is a reset that needs to be done here and a rebuild. I'm not afraid to say the R word because I don't have to make the big decisions and pull the triggers on any of these deals. But by the same token, this is something that has to be done for the benefit of the club. They're carrying far too much weight up top. That's hampering them in being able to do other things that they need to do in order to build a winner. There was a lot of talk at the start of the year about how this is a team now that is built for the playoffs. But the real question that we both had was, will they make the playoffs? Yeah, and that seems to be the problem. Everybody's like, oh, but they did so well the other years, and they won this and they won that, and they made the playoffs, and it's 9 years in a row. It shouldn't be a problem. Turns out it is. But we'll have to see what management does here. I know these past two games have given fans a glimmer of hope. And I'm hoping that management
beat two bad teams. They beat two bad teams.
I understand that, but it's 2 wins in a row.
Yeah.
And we're not that far out. I mean, granted, the Leafs will have to go 32 out of 27 in order to actually make the playoffs. But, realistically speaking here, this needs to happen. It needs to be torn down to the studs and completely rebuilt.
And having said that, the last thing I'm going to say about this particular topic is that hindsight being what it's worth, right? Whatever hindsight's worth, the hindsight being what it's worth, the biggest problems the Maple Leafs have had over the years, and this goes on year after year after year, and that is that they have never built a team for the playoffs in the offseason. They've never had a team that they had faith in the regular season, in the offseason. What am I saying? Well, what I'm saying is that this team has never had a chance to be a team. It's always been a makeup of the core that they have, knowing the deficiencies that core has and trying to fix the deficiencies at the trade deadline and giving up a lot because they never fixed the deficiencies of the core group of players. I'm not using that magic number, by the way. Those core players. And so therefore, when they get into the point where they make the playoffs and then they make the decision that, okay, we're a good enough team to invest in these players, it's constantly failed because it's been a revolving door of switch plates, the plates you see around a plug. The plug's what matters. They've never worked on the plug or the switch. They've always worked on the cover plate, which makes the plug look pretty. That's all that job is, just to look pretty. If it was really a function of the plug, they would be around longer than 2-3 weeks, 10 games, 12 games. So that is something they're paying for that now. So my point is, again, this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. They need to have more continuity. In other words, they have to build a team that shows up at training camp that they have more faith in than they've ever had in the past 10 years, going through the process of the regular season and hopefully landing in the playoffs. That's what's wrong with the Leafs. To your point, then, you go down to the studs, if you want to call whatever the studs are. Everybody can have their different opinion about that. But the point is, then you put the walls up, you put the electrical in, the water, all that stuff you do, to take the construction analogy, but don't put stuff in there that's temporary. And by temporary, I mean a dozen games, 15 games. You're relying on people who are playing that many games for your team. They got to stop doing that. They've got to find the right guys in training camp, believe in them, because this is the difference between the team that played last year in Boston, started the season, to the team that showed up at training camp. That's the team that's successful, the one that they brought into training camp that's ready to play well. That's what the Leafs need to do.
And that's the thing. We're not looking for builder grade here. We're not looking for a builder grade finish on this rebuild. We are looking for the premium materials. And a lot of the times you can't do that if you've already bought a $42,000 stove and a $9,000 dishwasher. You need to figure out a better way to build this house the way it should be built.
A $300,000 bathroom in a $600,000 home just doesn't
work.
Make sense.
No.
So we're on the same page with that, and I'm sure we've developed a couple of enemies because of that.
Oh, 100%. I can guarantee that. Yeah.
But that's okay. All right, tell me about I'm a Suitcase.
So this is actually the third game of Troy Stetcher's revenge tour, as it were, because he used to be a Calgary Flame. He used to be a Vancouver Canuck. And most recently, before becoming a Leaf, he was an Edmonton Oiler. So, this is one of those situations where the Leafs have won 2 out of 2 so far. Their last game is obviously tonight, second half of back-to-back with travel and less than 24 hours between games. But, this is the Leafs' opportunity to try to do something for this guy who has done a heck of a lot for the team since they picked him up. And again, this is one of those guys that's one of those temporary ads that we've mentioned before. We don't necessarily know how long Troy's going to be around for, but he's around here for now. And I think this is a good opportunity for the band of brothers, as it were, to coalesce and show what they can do for him.
He's that thing you bought real cheap on sale, and you went, well, I can't not buy this. It's so cheap, and I'm going to give it a try. I can afford to give it a try. And then it turns out into being better than a lot of stuff that you paid a lot more money for, which is, or invested a lot in. So good for them on that. The Leafs that's where they are now. I said it at the beginning of the year. They're at the point where they need to find players in ways that are not normal. Normal is draft, develop, bring to the big team. They can't draft. They don't have anything to develop, So they have to find players in different ways. And he's one that proves the point that I hope supports what I was saying. And that is they've got to scour every opportunity they get to bring players in that surely may not be good for other teams. You can hope you can get a bargain. You can get that thing you're glad you bought, because you never thought that something that underpriced would be that over important to your organization. And he is very important. He chews up a lot of time, and there has been some talk that the one concern the Leafs have with using him is that they have to use him more than they want to, and they feel that's a hindrance to his playing ability is when he's used too much. So that's the challenge they have with him. They can count on him for a certain amount of time, but they themselves know that he only has X to give to a team in a game. So good for him. And I like those stories. I like the stories, Aaron, where a guy that's tossed on the trash heap and he goes somewhere and he's appreciated. I'm not just talking about Toronto, but anywhere in the NHL. That's a great story where somebody gets a chance to prove they belong when they've been told over and over again they don't.
100%.
All right, former Leafs forward suffers potentially career-ending non-contact injury. My goodness.
So I don't know if a lot of people remember David Booth, but he did play with the Leafs in 2014, 2015 before spending a couple years overseas in the KHL and then joining the Detroit Red Wings in 2017, 2018. For those who don't know where he's been, he was playing in the Elite Ice Hockey League in the UK for a team called the Fife Flyers. Now, there's a little bit of background that goes into this. This week in the UK is their Pride Week. So almost every single team in the EIHL has Pride jerseys that they wear during the warm-ups and during the game. Apparently, Booth was one of the players on the Fife Flyers that started a bit of a kerfuffle with management. Now, there's a little more that goes into this, too. The Fife Flyers partnered with a group called The Hive in Kirkcaldy. They are a nonprofit LGBTQ support. They offer employment services, gyms, hot coffee, good meal if you need it, that sort of thing. They partnered with them to sell the jerseys and auction them off after the game. Because of David Booth's decision to raise a little hell about this, the Hive walked away from the deal. The Fife Flyers later said, well, we're only going to wear the Pride jerseys for the warm-ups, and then we'll go back to our regular jerseys for the game. Well, David Booth decided to skip the warm-up. His second shift into the game, when attempting to take a shot on goal, he collapsed. Not sure what happened, but it did look like his left leg completely buckled, and it could potentially be a career-ending injury, which might not necessarily have happened had he decided to take the warm-up and wear a rainbow. But he didn't want to do that, so this is the situation that we're at. I'm not one for Schadenfreude. This is not me. I don't take delight in people getting injured, but it's a jersey. There's different colors on it. If you can't get over that, that's an issue.
Toronto Rock, they rebound with a win against the Ottawa Black Wolves. The Black Bears, sorry.
Yeah. Now this is a bit of a long one. There's 7 or 8 different stories all rolled into one here. The Rock finally managed to put together a consistent 60-minute effort against the Ottawa Black Bears on Saturday at TD Coliseum. They managed to roll their way to a 17-10 win. This is exactly what the team needed after losing in overtime to the Georgia Swarm the week before, 10-9. For the first time this season, the Rock actually never trailed. They had a 5-2 first quarter lead. Kirsten Heltz did get 2 goals. Chris Boucher won the night with 5. Challen Rogers had 3. Mark Matthews had 2 goals and 9 assists for an 11-point night. So, they managed to lay a hurting on them. The Oshawa Firewolves are finishing a 4-game road swing in Hamilton this coming Saturday. Unfortunately, they dropped a 16-13 decision to Las Vegas in Henderson this weekend. It was a back-and-forth contest for most of the game, but Jonathan Donville broke a 13-13 tie with 5 minutes left, and 2 more goals sealed it for Vegas. Mitch Jones had back-to-back goals in both the third and fourth quarters to lead the Desert Dogs. Chris Cloutier and Kyle Killen had hat-tricks. Donville and Adam Poitras had 2 each, with Connor Kirst and Jackson Webster also adding goals. Elsewhere in the NLL, the Colorado Mammoth dropped one of the worst defeats in franchise history on the NLL champions, the Buffalo Bandits, dropping them to under 500 at 3-4 with a 20-9 win. Colorado got out to a 6-0 lead and were led by Andrew Q, who had a 7-goal night. Tehoka Nanticoke had 5 points for Buffalo. The Vancouver Warriors took their show on the road, beating up the Rochester Nighthawks 16-6. But it was a crushing cross-check by Rylan Hartley on Steph Carbonneau in the ensuing brawl that grabbed the attention of the online and mainstream sports media. You may have seen some of it. Hartley came out of his crease, and Dex Charbonneau, who had grabbed a long pass, Hartley was ejected for that. The Halifax Thunderbirds are now on a 5-game losing skid after an 11-7 loss to the Georgia Swarm at Scotiabank Center. The Philadelphia Wings got pantsed by the San Diego Seals 13-7. Joe Rezateritz was the lone bright spot for the 1-6 Wings with 3 goals. And finally, the Saskatchewan Rush are now 7-1 after a 14-8 win over the Calgary Roughs, who've now fallen to 1-6. Zach Mans and Austin Shanks had 4 goals each for the Rush, and Tanner Cook led Calgary with 3 goals.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Raptors and Scotty Barnes, his second All-Star.
Yeah, it turned out to be a great weekend for him. He was rewarded for his standout play and his team's unexpected rise up the Eastern Conference standings with a second All-Star reserve selection in his first 5 NBA seasons. Barnes was also a case for a third All-NBA selection and should be a no-doubt all-defensive first-team choice should his season continue the way that it's going. He's averaging 19.4 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 5.6 assists per game, while shooting a career-best 50.1% from the field and 82.5% from the free-throw line. So this is really cool. He's joining Vince Carter, Chris Bosh, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, and Pascal Siakam as other Raptors who have earned multiple All-Star selections.
And what about RJ Barrett? And they're glad since he's been back. They've gone back to the winning ways. If he hadn't got injured, they would have been battling for a top spot in the Eastern Division or Eastern Conference, I should say.
Definitely. Barrett dropped 21 points. Sandro Mamukelashvili added 20, and the Raptors beat the Utah Jazz 107-100 on Sunday night to open a 5-game homestand. Brandon Ingram had 19 points to help Toronto end a 2-game losing streak, and Emmanuel Quickly had 17. Lauri Markkanen had 27 points and 11 rebounds for Utah. The Jazz have now lost a season-worst 6 straight games. Isaiah Collier added 19 points for the Jazz, and Yusuf Nurkic had 11 points and 13 rebounds. Up next, the Jazz are at Indiana on Tuesday, and the Raptors are hosting Minnesota on Wednesday. That's tomorrow, and I'll be at the game.
Edward Rogers, his statue is leaving the front of Sky Dome, I'll call it. Okay, the Rogers Center. And they're replacing it with Joe Carter.
I'm not upset by that. I'll be honest with
you.
I think it's a fitting tribute. Before he threw out the first pitch in Game 2, Carter had mentioned that his moment is one that's withstood the test of time. And the fact that they made the World Series for the first time after that is one of those things. 32 years, man, that's a long time. But I'll be interested to see what it looks like in the pose that they choose.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be a home run pose because it's the home run that won the World Series that they're going to be basically showing. Let's go to the National Hockey League and the other Canadian teams, and let's talk about the Canadiens, who got a point out of Minnesota but didn't get the other point.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I think they were rather lucky to get away with even that much. Both teams were 6-3-1 in their last 10 games and had won their previous 3 games. Montreal 7th in the league, while Minnesota was 4th. But one of those cases where at the end of the day, the cream rose to the top. The Wild had taken a 2-0 lead in the first period. The Canadiens fought back, but at the end of the day, the Wild just managed to outlast them.
They sure did. Giroux of the Senators. Talk to us about him and his contribution.
Dude, it was a disputed goal. It's a greasy play in front, but at the end of the day, with under 5 minutes left to play, that was the winning goal. Stutzla and Michael Amadia had the other Senators' goals, while Drake Batherson had 2 points in the night. Linus Ullmark made 14 saves for Ottawa, who outshot the Penguins 31-16. I think that says a lot about the Senators' defense when you can hold the Pittsburgh Penguins to only 16 shots. It's one of those things that you kind of like to see, you know. Now, Yegor Chinnikov led Pittsburgh with a goal and an assist and gave the Penguins a 1-0 lead midway through the first period, but Amadio tied it early in the second. This was his first goal in 24 games, so if you think he took it a little bit far, maybe. But you know, after a 24-game drought, you're kind of happy to get that monkey off your back.
Draisaitl. No, sorry. Harley scores an OT, and of course the Jets lose again to a really good Stars team.
Yeah, the Stars are now on their second longest winning streak of the season at 5 games. The goal came just literally seconds after Ottinger made a pad save on Scheifele's breakaway. Now, this is a matchup between Hellebuck and Ottinger. This is Team USA's top 2 goalies, so I'm not surprised that it ended the way it did. Jason Robertson had his 199th career goal and team-leading 31st, and Nils Lundqvist scored as the Stars won their 18th one-goal game, tying the New York Islanders for the NHL lead in that category. Jets are going to be hosting the Habs on Wednesday, and the Stars are going to be hosting the Blues.
What did Draisaitl do that was so monumental?
Dude, he finally managed to tie Messier.
There you go.
That was nice.
The Oilers, they placed Pickard on waivers.
Yeah, and now he did clear, but you know, he'd only had a 5.62 record this season with a 368 goals against and an 871 save percentage. This is a far cry from the Pickard that led them to the finals last year, but it was rough. But I'm glad he's cleared.
Schmaltz gets 3, and the Mammoths bank the Canucks 6-2.
Yeah, this is his second hat trick of the season. He also had an assist for a 4-point night. This is his third career NHL hat trick, pushed his season total to 22, one shy of his career high set in Arizona in 21-22. JJ Peterka had his 20th. John Marino had 3 assists, and Mikhail Sergachev and Lawson Krause also scored. This helped them end a 2-game losing streak, with Karl Vejmelka getting 21 saves on the other end. Liam Olgren and Teddy Bluger scored for Vancouver, and Kevin Lankinen stopped 14 shots. Vancouver's only won 2 games in their past 18. This is a rough stretch, but you know, it's not going to get any easier. They play Vegas tomorrow night.
Yeah. Well, the way Vegas is going, they should be able to beat them. Vegas hasn't been able to beat any Canadian team not known as the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I was going to say, come on now.
Come on now. All right. Thanks for doing this, Aaron. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Glad to be here and glad to share with you.
Take care. We'll see you Thursday.